This object is known as the Exeter Salt. It's made from silver gilt. That's silver covered in a thin layer of gilding, so it looks as if it's made from gold, and then it has inset into it jewels including emeralds, diamonds and rubies. It's an incredibly detailed piece. It sits on 4 feet with roaring dragons as if they're appearing from caves around it. And it's created in the style of a fantasy castle with turrets and even miniature cannons. The maker of this object was Johann Haas, and this is actually the only surviving work by him. During the Civil War, Exeter had been a parliamentary stronghold, and on the restoration of Charles II, the City Council decided to present a gift to the King in order to win favour. And this was the object that was chosen to be presented by the city of Exeter, and so it now retains the name of the Exeter Salt. We don't know originally who it was made for, but the salt was purchased on behalf of Cromwell's government by the ambassador in Hamburg, who was known as Richard Bradshaw. He was dispatched to Russia on behalf of Cromwell to treat with the Tsar. The Tsar was infuriated by the British regicide of Charles I, and they actually refused to allow Richard Bradshaw onto Russian soil. He eventually returned to London carrying the gifts he'd purchased for the Tsar, among them this object, and he obviously sold it in an attempt to recoup the losses he'd made during his journey. We don't know exactly who Richard Bradshaw sold the piece to when he arrived in London, but Thomas Viner, the royal goldsmith, was responsible for acquiring it on behalf of the city of Exeter and presenting it to the newly restored Charles II. From medieval times, the salt was always the most important object on the table, and in fact it becomes almost symbolic of the monarch himself. It's known as the Exeter Salt, but in fact the number of drawers indicate that it was actually a spice box and that it would have been used for various different spices, not just salt. The historic inventories list this piece as a piece of English silver, largely because they believed that it was a model of the White Tower, that is the inner keep of the Tower of London itself. Of course, when you look closely at it, you can see that it doesn't bear any resemblance to the White Tower. This piece became associated with the crown jewels, which were newly remade for the coronation of Charles II. And so it has remained on display with the crown jewels ever since.